Hello everybody, how are you doing today? It's superfiend here, and welcome back to another Planet Coaster time-lapse from my theme park, Whacky World. What we're going to be looking at today is a kiddie coaster that I built. It is I think it's the Dragon is what it's called. And the name of this ride is the Lost Gardens. So it's kind of like the Hidden Temple. If you watched my Hidden Temple episodes, and if you didn't, you can find them on my channel or as part of the it's the same playlist that this is in. But in any case, if you're not familiar with Whacky World, this area that I'm working on is a pirate and lost civilization jungle tropical region. And in the overall timeline of Whacky World, I started working on the Hidden Temple attraction that's part of this same area, and I built some of it up, and then I kind of I got writer's block. I had creator's block, and of course I want to keep my YouTube series going. So while I was struggling with some ideas for what to do with the Hidden Temple, I started building some of the scenery that you can see here, the sandstone pieces, the little platforms, and the pillars. And so what I was basically doing was kind of building up some hidden civilization scenery for this area of the park. And then I was making coffee one morning, and I knew that I had this little gap in the scenery, and I was thinking, what am I going to fill it in with? And then I got this idea of, well, why not a kiddie coaster? It's a small little area. It's a small gap. And it would probably be a perfect area to try to squeeze in a kiddie coaster. And because this is a challenge mode park, I didn't have the full array of rides and things to choose from. So we're doing the Dragon because that's what I had available, I think, at the time. Plus the Dragon car with the dragon on it kind of fits the overall theme of, I don't know, like Mayan Aztec civilization more than the what's the other kiddie coaster? It's like a Wendigo. It's got like a narwhal on it, or some sort of like bubbly little creature. And I think the Dragon fits the theme for this area of the park better. So what we're seeing this episode is basically I laid down the coaster station, and I'm building the track now. And the track it's a very simple design. The train leaves the station and kind of basically does a U-turn, goes up a chain lift, does another U-turn at the top, and then goes down a drop that kind of has a double down and one or two little bunny hops or hills, and then it goes into kind of a double helix, or a double turn, before heading back towards the coaster station, goes through another hill or two, and then hits a block section or trim break or whatever they are on this ride, and then eases its way back into the coaster station. So it's a very simple design and not a very large ride, and I did spend some time with the testing and whatnot to make sure that the EFN values, the excitement, fear, and nausea ratings, were kind of good. So I'm putting the block section or the trim brakes or whatever they are. I think they're a block section. And right now I'm really just kind of getting the rough overall outline of this ride. And I didn't really know what the scenery or any of the surrounding scenery was really going to be for this. I think at this point when I was building this, my goal was just kind of to fill in this gap in the sandstone building and scenery pieces with something that was more interesting. And I thought, okay, we could fit a ride in here. And so I've got the basic outline of the track right there, and I think the EFN values are kind of bad, and the helix at the end is kind of messy, and I think I need to make a few adjustments to the hill. Like right now, the hill is just kind of one steady slope, and I think I go in and I change it to more of a double down, and I think that's a little bit more exciting. And definitely I have two small kids. My oldest is 5. My youngest just turned 4 not that long ago. And we are located in Southern California, so we can go to like Legoland, and they do have a Dragon roller coaster there that the kids can go on. And so my design for this is not like the one at Legoland, but I do take quite of I took a bit of inspiration from it. It's a kids coaster. You really can't overwhelm their little bodies with too much, so you gotta kind of keep it simple. So, gentle hills with turns, not too steep, not too much speed. And that's kind of the overall design or the idea behind this. And you can see that I make heavy use when I'm designing my coasters of like laying the track and then going in and using the arrows to like really move pieces around in big sections, and then I go in and I kind of clean it up with a smooth tool. And if I can't get the job done that way, then I'll usually delete the intermediary track pieces and then just kind of design them fresh. So at this point, we kind of have a pretty good track layout, and I'm just kind of laying in the some more ancient civilization scenery. And you can see when I zoomed over that part of the hidden temple was already done, like the hidden temple chamber with the platform with the like stone sacrificial tables. That was already built at this time. And so even though I ran out of ideas at the hidden temple, I'm reusing some of those scenery elements and ideas for the Lost Gardens, and that helps to keep the overall park scenery, this jungle pirate lost civilization, and really the emphasis right here is the lost civilization. That really kind of helps to keep it thematically similar and consistent and cohesive when you kind of like share elements. And I use the sandstone pieces a lot for the lost civilization stuff. They're really good pieces, and a lot better than say like the limestone and some of the other pieces. I mean, the sandstone's really kind of the best rocky texture we have to make temples and things that would be reminiscent of a South American or Central American older civilization. So, and right here I'm just kind of getting the overall outline of this building, like how big is it going to be, how big does it need to be to fit in here. And you can see right now I've got problems where the track is intersecting with the archway, so I'm going to have to move the track around. And as a big time-saving piece, I just duplicated a huge chunk of the hidden temple chamber, and I'm basically taking the little sacrificial steps and platform out and positioning it in this building. And then once I get an idea of like where this needs to sit in this building, then that tells me like how big does this building need to be. And you can see I'm going to shrink this building and make it much smaller and get rid of some of the stuff hanging around outside the edges. And when the camera pans out, you can see I've already kind of got the front of this building. It's kind of got an archway leading into it, and it's got these... they're not really... I wouldn't really say they're Mayan or Aztec. You can kind of see them. They're like these bulbous-shaped pillars on the other side of the wall there. And those, to me, they kind of got more of like a, I want to say like jungle in India theme, like Jungle Book, you know, Mowgli and all that. They kind of got more of a like a Jungle Book theming to them, but I wanted some really big stone pillars, and of course those are fountain pieces, but I wanted some stone pillars on the outside of this building. And I think at the end of this footage, I've got kind of like a view. I got a couple vantage points of this coaster from different areas, and I think you can see them there. So now I'm just reduplicating or making another large floor or enclosed area with the sandstone. And I don't know exactly when I came up with it, when the inspiration hit me for this ride to do this. I probably talk about it in the actual Let's Play episodes, but I kind of had this idea of like, okay, so the little bunny hop hills where the platform is, that's going to be like an enclosed chamber. But this area here where it does the double helix is going to be this lost garden, this very colorful and vibrant and lush looking area with some decorations and stuff, kind of like an ancient plaza where the ancient peoples or the people that inhabited this area, they would come here to hang out and ponder the meaning of life and enjoy the nice scenery, of course, you know, because they don't have video games and YouTube and all that to keep themselves occupied. So you walk through nice areas and enjoy the scenery in there. And you know, I don't know if it kind of if I, you know, I don't know what my exact source of inspiration for it was. You know, like I play Civilization and I know some of the ancient works and the big works that you can build in that game are like the what is it, the Hagia Sophia or whatever, I can't remember what it's called, and then the Hanging Gardens. So I kind of wanted to like introduce that in here as if this, because this is not a true like South American or Aztec culture, because we really don't have scenery pieces that can replicate that exactly. So I just wanted to add something else that other civilizations in our history as humans have done. So I thought kind of like a lost garden, and build it up and put lots of flowers and colorful plants, because the foliage and the greenery and all the different things that we can choose from in the game, Planet Coaster has a pretty large plethora of bushes and stuff that you could use to create that. And so right now, I mean, what kind of garden would it be if it didn't have a really over the top and extravagant water structure, water fountain? Older civilizations, what did they have to show off their wealth and their power? They had natural resources, they had gold, and a big natural resource was water. And if you really look at Earth's history and different cultures, there's a lot of human ingenuity, creativity, and effort went into channeling, controlling, and ushering water where humans needed it to go. So I wanted to show that the people that built this, the so-called people that built this, they had that technology, they had that know-how, they're very sophisticated. And so I'm using a couple of the different fountain pieces. And again, this is in my other time-lapse videos, I talk a lot about the cider press, and this is like the curved piece of the cider press. So in a lot of the other areas, I use the straight cider press, and in this area right here, I'm using the curved one. And this was right after, this was quite a few weeks ago, but this was right after Frontier released the billboard, and I think fireworks updates was all the same thing. So I want water in between where those two fountains are, but there's no fountain in the game that I can put in there that's going to make it look right. So what I decided to try was to put a billboard in there, and then I haven't done it yet. I'm going to put a water texture on that billboard, and so it will make it look like the everything's joined together. And what I use as a placeholder is I use Chief Beef, and they're still in there. So if you go in and like look at the park right now, you get these nice fountains, and then there's 4 Chief Beef signs in there. So it does look kind of ridiculous. I do have and here I'm trying to look to see if there's like another fountain that I could put in that kind of capture the look and feel of what I'm after. But the stonework doesn't match up with the other stuff that I've used. And so there's really no other fountain to put in there and get what I want. So billboards and Chief Beef it is for right now. And I do have a little notepad file for my Whacky World park of like things to do. I am a programmer by trade, and it's very common to leave comments in your source code of to do, go back and do this. And after a few years of working on a project, if you do it like a grep or a search for to do, there's only like 800,000 instances of things that you should go back and to do. So replicating those habits here. And right now I'm adding even more smaller fountains on top of the pillars and stuff, to the point to where it's almost like over the top. But in the end, I actually liked the way it turned out, and I decided to keep it. Like when the camera pans back over, if you look at the central fountain piece, it's very top heavy, and the pillar or the column that's supporting it is actually very small and doesn't really seem like it should be able to support all that weight. But again, building it like that shows the quote-unquote mastery that these ancient peoples had when they designed and built this stuff. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some more pillars. These are the same similar pillars to what I've used elsewhere for the ancient scenery. And so replicating them in here, again, it helps to keep the area, the theming cohesive and coherent, and make it really look like the same people built this civilization, and it kind of like sprawls all throughout this area of Whacky World. It's much more prominent in certain areas of the pirate area of Whacky World, the Lost Civilization area, but there's like inklings of it. I plan to have inklings of this Lost Civilization like all throughout to make it really seem like they had a large footprint. This was a big civilization that occupied this area. And then the theme and the timeline is that at some point, they disappeared and they left this architecture behind, and the pirates come in, and the pirates are like building on top of it and kind of building their scenery and their architecture and buildings right into the lost civilization stuff. But some of the lost civilization areas are still untouched and left alone. So we can see now, after adding the pillars and the fountains, that I'm going in and I'm starting to add the foliage and the different colored plants and things to really bring this area to life and help it live up to the name of the Lost Gardens and give it the look and feel of something that you would go into on a relaxing day to have meaningful conversations about life and whatever else with your friends and relatives, or the political people would get in here and plan espionage or political intrigues, stuff like that. And after going around and adding a bunch of these different bushes and other things in here, I'm also going to build a couple larger stone works that would act as kind of like big benches where you could kind of sit and relax. And so you'll see some of that as well. And I don't really do, this footage kind of ties off towards the end of decorating this area with the foliage. And the way I'm placing the foliage right now is kind of like the intended foliage for the gardens. So like the bushes that are growing up on those pillars, that's how it would have grown and been tended to while the inhabitants were still tending to this area and taking care of it. You'll see in the next time lapse, I think, is when the footage will be there, is I also go in and give this area the same treatment that I gave to the hidden temple, and that I add some of the scavola and some of the other game foliage and just kind of scatter it all over. And that helps to create the illusion that while some of the remnants of the tended gardens, the manicured gardens are still there, nature has moved in and taken over, and it helps to create the effect that these people have been absent or missing for quite some time. And then there's a couple other things I do that are kind of neat. And one of those, you won't see it happen in this episode, and this is actually where I got the idea for it in the Hidden Temple. If you watch my Hidden Temple time lapse, you'll notice, or you saw, that the coaster track goes in and out of the ceiling and the walls of the Hidden Temple, the sandstone pieces. And I had to knock holes or create holes in the walls. And I originally got that idea when I was building this ride. And so before I built the Lost Gardens, I didn't actually even know how to do that for the Hidden Temple. And the way it came about is I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to have this really nice garden with this track doing a double helix in here. But the way I built it, it's completely blocked off, and none of the park visitors, none of the guests can see in here, and they can see what's happening. So what I decided is that I would try to make a hole in the wall. And that kind of also fits the theme of it being very old, because there's going to be structural damage as time goes on from earthquakes and other natural events, or raiding parties, or people that stumble across this. Like maybe the pirates stumbled across it and they couldn't get in, so they just, they blew a hole in the wall and they went in that way. So anyways, damage is something that's going to happen to the structure over time. So I had this idea of, if I could knock a hole in the wall, that would expose the helix and the gardens and this, this scenery that's in here, and it would expose it to the outside park, to the different pathways on the park. And so if it were a real park, that helps to build up the desire of wanting to go and check that out. Theme parks, highly thematic theme parks, they're all about piquing your curiosity and making you curious about like what's over there. Now, as adults, we've seen it all and done it all pretty much, but that's part of the magic for kids. And this is a kids coaster, so and here I actually am throwing some of the scaevola and the foliage in right now, so I guess some of that is in this episode. But anyways, going back to what I was talking about, one of the thematic things that you want to do to make a theme park interesting for kids is you give them like glimpses of things that are cool, that captivate them and get their attention, and then Daddy, I want to go over there, we want to go on that one, I want to go on that one, and then they get off again, you know. So by building this up and making it look really neat and really cool, and then knocking a hole in the wall so that you can see it from the outside pathway, any guests, if it were a real park, of course it's pretend, but any guests walking along that path with their kids, they get this view through this lush tropical foliage and overgrowth to this hidden room that's got a small coaster in it with all these gardens and other stuff. So, and it just looks really cool. So having said all that, we're getting to the end of the footage here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to leave me any sort of comments, feedback, or criticism, that's always welcome. And there's going to be one more time lapse showing the completion of this, and it's basically going to be filling in the chamber next door and doing some terraforming. So let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.